Okay, so today we're going to be doing a multicolor LED wheel glow installation on the 2014 Suzuki M109 Boss. I'm going to go over the parts and components that you should receive with your LED wheel glow kit. First, you're going to get a multicolor LED remote module. The remote module is going to come with two remotes. You'll have an inline fuse holder, a kill switch, two wear rings or slip rings. You'll also get two 5-to-1, 4-to-1 connectors depending on your kit. The 3M adhesion promoter, one for each wheel. You'll get two brush blocks, your brush block brackets, your brush block extension wires, and all the required LEDs you'll need for your installation. The first step of the installation is going to be removing the front and rear wheel. So the next step of the installation is going to be, we're going to take these wheels out, wash and dry them with soap and water, bring them back in, start cleaning them down with some alcohol, and we'll go to the next step after that. Okay, so the removal of the brake rotor is important, and you want to make sure that you remove the left side brake rotor. This is so all the wiring and the wear ring can be placed on the left-hand side, which is on the side of the kickstand, so that way nothing is visible whenever the bike is parked. So the first step is going to be removing the left-hand side brake rotor. Okay, so now that you've got both your wheels clean and you're ready to install your LEDs, I wanted to take a minute to show you where your slip rings are going to be located at. This kit is going to come with two slip rings, a larger slip ring and a smaller slip ring. The larger slip ring is going to go in the front left-hand brake rotor, and the smaller slip ring is going to go on the rear brake rotor. So this is going to be the 5-to-1 connector that we're going to use to connect all 5 of your LEDs. Now all of these wires are going to be inside the wheel. If you notice on these wheels, they're hollow. Here's a hollow opening as well. In the end, this wire is going to be coming out of this hollow end. All of the LEDs are going to be mounted along the inner lining of the wheel, and the wires are going to be tucked in as so. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we've got all 5 of the LED leads coming out of one hole. The next step, you're going to take your 5-to-1 connector. You're going to connect all of these as so. Okay. Now, carefully, we're going to place these lines back in. And 5, looking good. All right, you want to make sure that these LEDs have their slack now. And this connector, you may have to wiggle it just a little bit. And in the end, we're going to wind up pushing this in. For the time being, let's just go ahead and leave it out. Now we're actually going to be placing the LEDs on the wheels. Like I said, once again, soap and water, everything's been dried. The next step is we're going to go ahead and wipe the mounting location down with alcohol. Okay, so with these LEDs, you have 2 directions you can go with. My personal preference is going to go toward the direction of the sharper curve. Before we're able to remove the 3M adhesive backing, we need to put the adhesion promoter on there. So if we don't put this on, your LEDs are going to fall off. They're just not going to adhere. So that's what we're going to do right now. All right, so we got all the LEDs mounted on the rear wheel. If you notice, there may be a little gap on some of the tighter corners of the LEDs. Don't worry about that right now. At the end of the LED installation, I will show you how to weatherproof these LEDs so you won't have any problems at all. All right, so now it's time to mount your slip ring to your rear brake rotor. The first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to drill a hole through the brake rotor. This is going to allow the wire from the slip ring to go through and to plug into your LEDs that are on the inside of your wheel. Take the slip ring, feed the wires through the hole. Everything's secure, just like that. Take the heat gun, apply a little heat to it. Alright, kind of hold them together. And now we're going to take that 1/4 inch, bring it down. Alright, so now we're about to attach the slip ring to the brake rotor. What we're going to be using is some Scotch 3M Extreme Velcro. You can get this stuff at Home Depot or Lowe's. I usually keep this stuff in a roll at the shop. Your kit will probably come with some of the 3M lock discs as well. But I'm going to be using my own stuff today. So what we're going to be doing is take some alcohol. And we're going to clean the back of the ring with alcohol. We're also going to be cleaning the area where this ring is going to be mounted at. So the first mounting position the first attachment position you definitely want is right there where that cut is at. You want to make sure that that cut is exactly flat, so that way whenever the brushes, whenever this wheel is rolling, these brushes aren't getting clipped or notched by anything. So that's the first location where we're going to put them on. That kind of overlapped a little bit, so I'm just going to trim it down just so you don't see any overlapping. So that piece is going to keep this slip ring perfectly flush. What you don't want to do is put any mounting tape where your bolts are going to be. Your bolts are probably going to protrude a little bit above the flat portion of this brake rotor. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to position this slip ring exactly where it's at. And I'm just going to mark where these mounting holes are at, so that way I don't put any tape by them by mistake. Okay. And we're going to flip this over. Hey, you'll notice where these wires are soldered into the back of the slip ring. Whatever you do, do not remove this tape. Don't remove the adhesive. Don't mess with that at all. That actually seals in the wires from getting wet, and if this is removed, what happens is power can get grounded to your brake rotor, and it's a nightmare to track down and locate. Okay, so now that we have the areas that we're going to be mounting on, we'll take another side and go ahead and place it, go ahead and lock it in place. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and pull this adhesive backing off. Making sure that everything is even. On all the mounting points, supply a little pressure. And that's how your slip ring is supposed to be attached to your rear brake rotor. Okay, so now that we have the rear brake rotor slip ring already mounted, we're going to set this aside just for a few minutes, and we're going to start working on the front wheel. All right, so once again, we're going to take the 3M adhesion promoter, and we're going to apply this to the front wheel where the LEDs are going to be mounted. Again, this is a very important step. Do not forget to do this. All right. We'll let that dry up just for a few minutes, and we'll start mounting our LEDs. The first LED strip that we're going to route is going to be the one on the short side of the valve stem. So if you come over here, this is the 5-inch LED strip that we're going to put right here, and we're going to feed this line through this hole. But we can't do it because this plug is going to be too big to fit through. So what we're going to wind up doing is removing this plug, and we'll reconnect it a little bit later. Okay, so this is a connector that we're going to be removing. Notice it goes green, blue, red, and white, and the plug is on the opposite side. Whenever we plug these back in, we're going to want to make sure that they're all the same. And you just push this tab down a little bit and pull it out. There we go. All right, so we got them all out, and we're going to take this LED, we're going to feed this in. Show you how to do that again. And I wish the first time went that easy. Okay, so I've got another one of the LEDs with the connector off. Slide that through there. So these lines aren't long enough to stretch from here all the way up. So what I'm going to wind up using is a 2-to-1 connector to connect these two to come out here, and these two to come out here. But I still need to build the plug. Fish out. All right, cool. So we've got all the connectors out. Let's get the plug and start plugging them together. Cool. So now that we've got all the plugs set, I just want to double check my connections, make sure everything's pushed in place, everything looks good. Let me go grab some 2-to-1 connectors. We'll be right back. Okay, so like I was saying earlier, these lines are a little short to come meet up over here. So I'm going to take some 2-to-1 connectors and connect that there. There. Okay. Just turn that out there for a second. All right. So just to kind of show you, so these connectors right here connected these two and these two. I'm going to bring them up here, and we're going to connect all of this with a 5-to-1 connector, and we'll just bring it out of one area. All right, so now that let's go ahead and tuck these in, so that way we have some slack to give with the LEDs since they've all been pulled in. All right, put that out right there. All right, so let's go ahead and start with this one. Okay, so now we've secured all the wires. They're not going to be pulling out. All the zip ties are secure here. Be careful when you're doing this not to unplug any of these plugs. And let's see. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. So the first 3M Velcro that we're going to put is going to be on that split to make sure. All right, everything looks really even. I think we're good to go. Everything looks good. Now, start applying some pressure. that is where your ring's going to be located at. Okay, so now we're going to test the LEDs. This is probably a good idea to do before you even stick anything down, just to make sure all your connections are good. But the way that RGB lights work is you're going to have one power, which is going to be the white wire. And by grounding the red, you should get red illumination. By grounding the blue, you should get blue illumination. By grounding the green, you should get green illumination. And then the multicolors that you see are by adding two of the same colors together. So that's how you get the multicolors. So it looks like everything's working on the rear wheel. Let's go ahead and test the front wheel as well. So we're going to add power to the white, and we'll check the red first. Look good here. Check the blue. Everything's powered on there. We'll check the green, and we got light. Nice. Before we mount the rotors to the wheels, we're going to weatherproof the LEDs by applying black silicone along the edges of the LEDs. This is going to prevent any brake dust, any water from ever coming in, any dirt that y'all don't clean out. In turn, it'll keep this adhesive clean and not allow the LED to come off. If you have any openings where the LED set on that sharp corner, this would be a good time to fill it in with a little bit of black silicone. By using alcohol, you can wipe off any excess silicone and get a cleaner finish. Okay, so now it's time to mount the rear brake rotor onto the rear wheel. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and detach the ring. You're going to go ahead and plug the Molex connector in. Make sure. Now, I'm going to remount the ring, position it evenly. Make sure all the Velcro is snapped in place. Okay, so just like we did on the rear brake rotor, we are going to shorten this and connect a female Molex connector to this end. We should be good to go. Okay, so same steps as the rear wheel. So just to do one last check before we do mount this motor, the wheels on, the outer ring is always going to be the power. We're good, good, good. Okay, so one final LED check. The power is always going to be on the outer ring. Red, blue, and green. So we're going to take the brush block bracket parts. We're going to take 2 of the set screws. We'll take a Phillips head screwdriver and maybe a little flathead just in case we need to pry anything open. So we know that the power is going to be on the very outermost portion of the ring, which is the white wire. So we're going to make sure that the power wire, which is the white, is going to set exactly where it needs to be. So I've got that hand tightened in place. I needed to bring this bracket down in order for us to have some type of adjustment on the placement of this brush block. Now, if you come over here, come around this side, you'll notice where the brushes are all lined up. And they're pushed in about 50% in. These are spring-loaded brush blocks. So now we've got our brush block in place. The brush is already set, but we need to put a little bit of pressure. So we're going to push it in about 50%. You take the screwdriver and lock it in place. All right. And just double checking that the brushes are in place. So everything is set right there. The brake line is run. All right, so now it's time to begin installation on your multicolor LED remote module. So just to save a little bit of time, I went ahead and soldered the inline fuse connector to the power line, the red. I've also installed the kill switch on the ground, as well as an extension because this wire was a little too short to reach to the battery. I've also put some heat shrink in place. So what we're going to do now is slide the heat shrink over the soldered areas. I went ahead and cut out 2 3M dual lock Velcro pieces so that way we can use them to mount our remote module. These remote modules, whenever they're plugged in, they're always sending a ping. It's a remote module, so it's always waiting for the remotes to send a signal. This will drain down the battery, so whenever you're not riding your bike, you just click it off and you don't have anything to worry about. Nothing's going to be draining your battery. So this one here, put the other side there. All right. And at this point in time, let's make sure that we don't have a fuse in there. We don't need it just yet. Remove the seat. Remove this panel. There's 2 push pins. The location that I want my remote in is going to be right here in this nook. So this right here is your remote antenna. You can just tuck this back up in here. These are going to be your leads for your LEDs, and it's going to be your power, it's going to be your ground. Okay, so we've got some zip ties. First thing we want to do is secure the brush block wires. Okay, so now we've got the front line all the way back to the battery terminal. Now we're going to work on the rear brake line coming back up to the battery terminal as well. Upon final assembly, we found that the rear brake hanger was making contact with the rear slip ring. What we're going to have to do is shave down just a little bit of this metal so that way it clears. You never want any metal touching these slip rings. Okay, so we have completed shaving down the brake hanger. That way it's not making contact with the slip ring. I'm going to go ahead and mount the brake hanger back on. Alright, so now it's time to finally test out our LED lights. We've got a 5-amp fuse. Never put anything more than a 10-amp fuse in this inline fuse holder. These systems run off a 22-gauge wire. Anything greater than a 10-amp fuse will fry your system if anything goes wrong. So, I'm going to insert the fuse, grab our remote, hit the on, bam, we got light. Alright, so going through a few of the functions. Nice, very nice. So now it's time for us to start buttoning up everything, tightening everything down. But first, this particular install, we're going to go ahead and put some fuel tank lights and an engine light setup. Give us a few minutes. We'll go ahead and set it up now. So now that we have the LED wheel glow installed, it's time to add some accent body lights to this bike. We're going to add 2 LED strips on the left and right hand side of the fuel tank. We're going to add 2 LED strips to the left side cover. We're going to add 2 LED strips on the right side cover. And we're also going to add 2 LED strips underneath the bezel. You give me a few minutes, I'll show you how it's set up. Okay, so we're just wrapping up this install. I've got all the wires tied up, cleaned, trimming some of these zip ties that we used in different locations. I'm going to go ahead and tuck the wires down. So if we've done our installation correctly, we should have some pretty nice lights. There it goes.